Thank you, Chairman. I'll hand the meeting over to yourself. We're now live streaming. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Teresa. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay this morning. Yep, good. All right, super. Thank you. So good morning. Welcome to the Cabinet meeting on Monday, the 4th of January, 2021. Great to see so many of you here today, and a happy new year to all of you. We'll crack straight on with the agenda. So item 1 is the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 30th of November, contained within pages 5 to 11. Do Cabinet colleagues believe they're a true and accurate record? Teresa, you might have to give me a bit of a hand because for whatever reason my screen seems to have frozen.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I can confirm members are happy with the minutes. Thank you.
Super. Thank you. Apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chairman. We have no apologies for absence.
Super. Thank you. Item 3, urgent business. I haven't received any or have any which I need to deal with. Item 4, declarations of interest. I haven't received any, but if members wish to indicate prior to any agenda item, that would be helpful. And non-members wishing to address, good morning to you all. And item 6, Chairman's announcements. I haven't got any announcements to make in relation to the Cabinet agenda today. I just do wish to give a vote of thanks to officers and volunteers and the emergency services and other bodies who were supporting residents throughout Christmas and New Year with some adverse weather, some terrible situations in relation to utility provision, and of course helping those most vulnerable residents throughout the district who needed us. Immensely grateful. I know that many of you as local members were working hard over the Christmas and New Year, and likewise officers and those in the public sector and emergency services were as well. And I know that many of you have already given your thanks to officers, but if any of you do have any comments in relation to the activity over Christmas and New Year, please do feed them into Rob and Max, who of course, following any emergency situation or contingency, we always do a wash-up session, and that's right and proper, and they'll be undertaking that over the coming weeks, and they've already commenced that. So please do feed in any comments you may have. So next item then is item 7, Breckland Community Funding Application, standard item. Councillor Robinson, please.
Thank you, Leader, and Happy New Year to yourself and to all. We have no grants to consider today, but I'm pleased to say that just prior to the last week before Christmas, we were able to spread some festive cheer supporting several applications through the Community Match Funding Scheme. Now we'll take a quick canter through those. We supported, these were all under delegated decision. Blow Norton Parish Council, £685 or 50% of the total project cost, whichever is the lower amount, to provide 2 new community notice boards. Little Dunham Parish Council, £975 the total project cost, 27% project cost, whichever is the lowest amount, install a water supply and a basic kitchen at the village hut. Necton Area Trust, £1,914 or 50% of the total project cost, again whichever is a lower amount, to assist the development of Necton Market as a community woodland. Wimber and Westfield Parish Council, £5,000 or 28% of the total project cost, whichever is a lower amount, to install new play and exercise equipment. Narborough Parish Council, £1,205 or 12% of the total project cost, which is again the lower, whichever is the lower amount, to install a 25-metre cableway in the village play area. Fresh Starts New Beginnings, £5,000 or 50% of the total project cost, whichever is the lower amount, to provide therapeutic services to children in the Breckland area who have reported sexual abuse. Kenninghall Parish Council, £5,000 or 18% of the total project cost, whichever is the lower amount, to create a new children's play area at the village hall. Longman Parish Council, £500 or 35% of the total project cost, to install a defibrillator. Steps Mentoring and Coaching, £3,000 or 37.5% of the total project cost, whichever is a lower amount, to continue providing mentoring to pupils at Durham Sixth Form College. Aspera Health, Social Care and Wellbeing Trust, £5,000 or 18% of the total project cost, to fund research to assess the health, social care and care provision requirements in the Greater Attleborough area over the next 20 years. And Wheaton Parish Council, £2,610 or 50% of the total project cost, whichever is the lower amount, to repair and replace play equipment. As you can see, we've been rather busy. We had a plethora of applications through the Community Match Funding Scheme, and I'm delighted that we're able to support our communities in such a variety of ways. Thank you, Leader.
Mark, thanks ever so much, and it's really encouraging to see that Breckland is supporting so many, as you said, organisations throughout the district, and what a portfolio of different organisations and different activities the community undertaking, and it's really encouraging. So thank you very much for that, Mark, and thank you to those ward members who wrote in support of those applications within their community. Without your support and sign off, those applications are not forthcoming, so thank you. So we'll move on to item 8 then, which is the draft budget, medium-term plan and capital strategy for 21-22. Councillor Cowan to present, please.
Thank you, Leader, and colleagues, good morning. I'm presenting the draft budget for the year ahead against a backdrop with which we are all too familiar, the COVID-19 pandemic. And whilst the report before you is in my name, I cannot begin my presentation without first thanking the finance team and all of the staff at Breckland who have worked with them in extraordinary circumstances to prepare the detail, data, charts and projections that are contained within the papers before you. Thank you, one and all. The report contains one recommendation, and that is that the report be reviewed in preparation for the budget setting in February. This draft budget is built upon a number of key foundations, amongst which we have plans and programs to deliver an enhanced quality of life for residents and businesses alike, affordability based upon grants, reserves and receipts, our resistance to incur debt, and to provide a sound basis to enable us to build back better and stronger as we come out of the restrictions imposed as a consequence of the pandemic. The details are contained within the report before you, but I would like to highlight some key headlines. This is a balanced budget, and against the background of events this past year, this is no mean achievement. That we've been able to do so is largely as a consequence of prudent fiscal management over the past decade, and a trend that we intend to pursue as we move beyond COVID-19. This budget protects frontline services from cuts. A number of services indeed will be enhanced. Improved waste service, recruitment of new officers focused on things like fly tipping, business support, COVID compliance and support, and animal welfare, and honouring our commitments to our climate change and vulnerability programmes. We have utilised some reserves to underpin the draft budget, but we're proposing that we increase our council tax for a Band D property by £4.95 per annum, resulting in a Breckland council tax charge for a Band D property equivalent to £1.90 per week. However, as 75%, as we know, of our residents are in Bands A to C, their costs will be significantly less. This report and the proposals contained therein rely upon a number of factors, some of which are quantifiable and others that are not at the time of the report was drafted. Income, fees, charges, NNDR, etc., has been reduced, as we know, to reflect the impact of the pandemic, and the capital programme has been reduced to ensure that we can deliver in line with available funds, as shown in paragraph 1.4. The impact of the local government settlement has been incorporated, as noted in paragraph 1.5 of the report. NNDR has been accounted for, as shown in paragraph 1.6, but please take note of the potential for appeals in this regard and the potential for change following business rate reports to be published by government in the spring. Can we still hear me, please? Assumptions around the fair funding review, as shown in paragraph 1.7, the effect of the new homes bonus allocation ceasing, and that's picked out in paragraph 1.8. Revised efficiency requirements are shown in paragraph 1.9. Fees and charges that are proposed are shown in paragraph 1.10. The draft capital spending programme that is itemised in paragraph 1.11, and note that whilst there appears to be a shortfall in funding, this is accounted for through the enhanced waste contract as identified in paragraph 1.12. Members, however, should note the caveats in paragraph 1.13 in respect of future capital projects. In conclusion, I would like to reiterate that despite all of the challenges with which this council has been faced during 2020 and which will continue into 2021, the proposed draft budget before us today has no reliance on legacy new homes bonus funding, which will be contributed to the Inclusive Growth Reserve. It shows no cuts to delivery of service. It provides financial support in reserves for projects which lead to growth and investment or savings, and sets a fair financial position to manage any future changes from the fair funding review, allowing time to put an appropriate programme in place if this is required. I commend the report for your consideration. My team and I will do what we can to address specific questions that members may have. And if it would help, we do have a short budget presentation, which many of you, however, I recognise have already seen. Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks, Phil. Ali, are you able to present your presentation to colleagues?
I am, thank you. Yes, I will share my screen now and let me know if it's working or not, please. Okay, brilliant. So as Councillor Cowan has said, this is the report is our draft budget, our medium-term plan, our capital strategy for the forthcoming years. The budget documents have been put on our website for consultation for a month just before Christmas. And as part of the consultation, we come to you as Cabinet and to overview and scrutiny as well before the final budget is presented to full council in February. These slides are a very quick highlight of the key points and also the journey from when we set the budget last year through to where we are now. So very quickly, just looking at capital, as said, we have proposed a slightly trimmed down programme so that it's affordable without any borrowing. But it is still significant. It's £34 million because we've been successful in getting some grant funding. So the net cost of the council is only £6 million. The programme supports our investment in growth in the district and continues to support other projects and priorities. The main spend areas, which you can just see there, the green highlighted are ones which are fully grant funded. The blue highlighted are ones which are partially funded, and only the black text are ones which Breckland is paying for 100%. So you can see there that there's the investment in power in Thetford and Snetterton, and also midway down our temporary accommodation project, which is well underway. And the smaller spend at the bottom still supporting our public lighting programme. So a significant capital programme. But moving on to the revenue side, as you might remember from last year, we did start with a budget gap of just over £1 million, which is shown in that top line. And we had come to a balanced budget through various savings in contracts, new incomes, and a new savings plan. We ended up in a couple of years' time with a small amount that we could reinvest. But unfortunately, life didn't stop there, and the local and national impacts of the COVID pandemic have been significant. And so we now have a new budget gap through challenges from these main areas. Our fees and charges income has taken a big hit, particularly in areas such as planning. Commercial property for our larger tenants, as you've heard before, has been reduced. Fortunately, our smaller tenants are holding up well. Interest rates has caused a huge gap in our income. We can almost only get 0.01% on our investments now, compared to nearly 1% this time last year. And our biggest income source, business rates, is really under pressure at the moment, as many businesses are struggling, and there's a lot more appeals coming through. On top of that, we have our local council tax reduction scheme, has seen a lot of extra take up from people who are in need of it.
It still is, but
So that has led us to, a quick look at the fees and charges, just so that you can see there, the green bar is the new year budget and the black bar is the prior year. So you can see the first one there is the planning, significant reduction. But there's a positive in the second bar. You can see actually our garden waste income has increased. So that's led us back to a new budget gap of just over £1 million again before we started work on it. However, we have had some additional government grants for sales fees and charges compensation, and also for COVID impacts. They've also done some flexibilities to allow us to spread some of our business rates and council tax deficits this year over 3 years, and some additional new homes bonus for 1 year. So that's led us to the really positive position of having a balanced budget next year. And whilst there is a small budget gap, 652,000 the year after, we've got plenty of time now to look at that and reflect and look at a savings plan to cover that gap. And whilst we haven't got the detail, the ideas and thoughts and principles behind it is there won't be any planned service reductions. We will look at all our contracts to see if we can make savings there. We will look at our shared services. We will look at setting up community interest companies if they benefit us. And we'll look at all of these things over Q1 of the next year. And then just a very quick reminder of our reserve balances. You can see the top one there, the amount available in the right-hand column, significant amounts still for us to spend on growth and investment within the district. The second line there, an inclusive growth, which is funding initiatives such as our vulnerability programme, market towns, climate and sustainability, all of those projects which are ongoing into the future as well as current. Our revenues and benefits reserve is there to protect us from business rates reducing significantly so that we hit the safety net. So we do have some protection there. Also not mentioned here, we do have our general fund, which is at its minimum balance of 2.5 million at the moment. So really, in summary, as Councillor Cowan has already said, we've got a positive budget here. There's no reductions to services, and we've actually managed to enhance them in some areas: business support, COVID support, waste, animal welfare. We have got a balanced budget next year. We may not be able to put more money into reserves in the short term, but we can look at that again in the future for future programmes. We have got a budget gap, but we've got plenty of time to work up ideas behind it. Whilst we've got no capital funds really remaining, we're making really good use of grant funding, so that remains positive. And we can still support programmes such as vulnerability and climate and sustainability. So all in the circumstances, we feel that this budget is a really positive one in the current circumstances that we're in. Thank you. I will stop sharing.
Lovely, Ali. Thank you very much indeed. And thank you, Councillor Cowan. So questions for Phil on the budget presented. I've got Councillor Webb, please.
Thank you, Leader, and good morning, everyone. I'd like to just ask a quick question over the pandemic. Obviously, over the last year, it's caused a lot of issues. And my question is, has the pandemic had a detrimental effect on any of our businesses or residents across the district, please?
Thank you, Councillor Webb. And it's actually quite an interesting question because it goes beyond just the residents and the businesses. I think what the pandemic has shown us is something that we've all become very familiar with, and that is that our officer cadre have worked heaven and earth to deliver incredibly good services, no reduction in services, and engage with our communities much more strongly than perhaps we ever anticipated we could. I know everyone's been working from home. Everyone's been working under very straitened and extraordinary circumstances. But I think the underlying message that's come across from me is that not only can we do the job as a day job very well, but we can do things in an extraordinary manner and deliver to our residents and business communities far beyond anything that anybody might have anticipated was possible. And that's shown clearly in the fact that we haven't had to cut services, that we have got a balanced budget, and more importantly, that we are enhancing some of the services that we regularly provide. I think that's a legacy of pandemic, which we can be very proud of, and thank all our team for so doing. Thank you, Alison.
Lovely, thanks, Phil. I've got Councillor Robinson and Councillor Hewitt, please.
Thank you, Leader. I just want to make a comment, actually. I just want to congratulate the executive member and his team. It's obvious that a lot of hard work has gone in the excellent delivery of a balanced budget. And I'm sure, like most, we're all aware that in future, all local authorities will continue to face significant challenges. That said, and I'm mindful, particularly because this impacts on the community portfolio, that we continued good fiscal husbandry leaves us well placed to deliver for residents. So it's a hearty congratulations and thank you to the cabinet member and his team.
Thank you for that, Mark. And again, well done, the team. Thank you.
And if I may, Phil, I will just echo my colleague's comment. I mean, we say that Breckland is a place where residents and businesses can thrive, and putting together a budget with a moving target during a time of complete uncertainty is no mean feat. Can I congratulate you? It's been a busy time for you. It's been a very busy time for Ali and her team in producing what, under other circumstances, we would say is a tremendous outcome. I think Ali described it as a very positive budget. I would say in Ali's true terms, that's a bit of an underestimation. It's a good result for us and our district. Congratulations, Phil, to you and the team for producing the budget and presenting to us now. I have no hesitation whatsoever in supporting it. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Lovely, thanks. I've got Councillor Jeremy, then Councillor Burt, please.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Phil and Ali, and Happy New Year to you both. I wanted to ask, if I may, if there's an update, please, in relation to the localised council tax support scheme. I've obviously raised this with you previously, and I appreciate there's probably been some movement on it in the last few weeks. Obviously, the financial increase and the pounds and shillings and pence, if you like, for Breckland is relatively small, but the percentage increase is no doubt more than most people have seen in increases in their wages over the last year. And this is against a backdrop of Breckland increasing its share of council tax in the past and likely to in the future. And of course, much more significant increases by other authorities and the police authority. So I just wondered, please, where we're at with the localised council tax support scheme, because for me, that support for those on low incomes is absolutely crucial. Thank you.
Terry, I couldn't agree more with your comments, but I'm going to hand over to Ali for the detail. This, of course, is funding that goes back down to the county initially. So, Ali, would you like to provide Terry with the background to what we've learned since we last met?
Thank you. Yes, so the Breckland Local Council Tax Support Scheme is proposed not to change. We brought that through Cabinet a while ago, so we're still proposing a maximum 92.5% scheme. In the settlement just before Christmas, the government did announce new funding for all councils to help with local council tax support, and it was up to councils how they use that funding. Now, the majority of it will go to county council, and only a small amount comes to Breckland because of the share of the council tax overall. So unfortunately, there is very little we can do with that unless our county colleagues wish to put some sort of global support in place.
Lovely, thanks, Ali. Thanks, Phil. Councillor Burt, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I do very much recognise the difficulties of preparing this budget, and I thank Ali and the team for actually coming up with a very good result under the circumstances. Certainly is a torturous time to be doing this. I do feel, though, sort of reflecting a bit on Terry was saying about the increase, £4.95. Yes, small, but nevertheless still an increase which some people are going to struggle with. And it also feels that we're at the same level as we were last year of applying the absolute maximum or near enough before we have to go for referendums and things. That gives the impression, at least, that we are under-resourced. We've gone to the maximum because we can't go any further than that. We've prepared our budget within that, which is good, but it would be, we've got to find new resources elsewhere. Can I go to page 31? And I think there's a significant part on there which is talking about value for money and the efficiency requirements. The report very nearly gets to this point, but seems to avoid it in that value for money does not necessarily mean the cheapest. We're nearly there, but not quite. But then further in that section, there's a part there about new targets to be identified. And we have some very specific numbers which are coming up to some pretty large values, over 1 million, 23, 24, and yet they are yet to be identified. Just wondered whether there is actually more detail in this than is being presented in the reports. The final bit which I'm slightly concerned about is that we don't seem to have any funding in the budget for the climate emergency capital projects. I know we've got a little bit in there for doing some of the work, but how do we prepare our capital projects in the future to fight climate change? Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Burt. So the specific figures that you refer to on page 31 were actually identified in the presentation on the budget slides that Alison gave us. And they are specific because we do know what they're likely to be. I mean, that's the whole point about having budgets which project forward. So we have next year a 651 or 652,000 is all about rounding up or rounding down gap to find. That's actually not unusual. And if you look at what the position where we were before COVID, we were looking at £1 million this year, and we've been able to pull that back. It's about efficiencies without a shadow of a doubt. It's about doing things differently, and efficiencies don't necessarily mean what everyone assumes they mean, which is cutting resources. It actually means doing things in a different way. And part of our challenge going ahead in next year and the year after is to identify alternative ways of working, which are going to provide us with more efficient ways of working, which in turn reduces cost. We also have to look ahead and think about where we're going to fund some of our capital projects. And I don't mean by capital projects in that way the climate change agenda. The climate change agenda is built and bolted into our overall plan going forward, and we will be funding the capital projects for it. I don't know, Ali, if you'd like to add any more to that from your detailed knowledge of your spreadsheets.
Thank you. I think just to add as well on the climate capital projects, there is a lot of grant funding available at the moment for the larger type projects. Some of it is grant, some of it is interest-free borrowing. So there are options out there once we know what it is that we're planning on doing. Thanks.
Lovely. Thanks, Phil, and thanks, Ali. And just to come back on the climate change position, there are some things within the capital expenditure in relation to our ability to directly control. So you'll see some of the expenditure on LED lighting, for example, updates to some of our other provisions at Elizabeth House, which is ensuring that our building has a better impact in relation to our climate emissions. Councillor Sherwood, I don't want to steal his thunder from his item shortly coming. We're still waiting for feedback on the wider consultation from that. But of course, part of the debate members had was where can we influence and where we can control. And I think that we need to make sure that we are working on what we can directly control to set an example, and then work hard on where we can influence. And I think that Councillor Sherwood and his team are working through that early part of this year, Councillor Burton. I think it's exciting times, so let's watch this space. But your comments are absolutely noted to make sure that we put our money where our mouth is, so to speak, but ensuring that we don't financially cripple the council in doing so. So making sure that we're absolutely exploiting all those other financial opportunities through grants, which Ali did mention. I've got Councillor Kyber, please.
Thank you, Leader. First of all, in the reply to the previous speaker, of course, value for money is something that our auditors report on an annual basis, and we have a fairly admirable record in that regard. However, my question is, what has been the growth in the domestic tax base, which is a reflection of the new housing and growth in the district? Thank you.
Ali will probably be able to answer this more quickly than I, but the answer actually is contained within the papers. And at the moment, the current tax base is 44,400, I think, and 46 without looking at the papers. But Ali, would you like to just fill the background in, please, whilst I look?
Yes, thank you. This is the problem of not having two screens sometimes, isn't it?
It is.
The tax base has gone up by around 400 houses, just over 400 houses between the current year and next year.
And for clarity, it's on page 33 of the report.
Thank you.
Lovely, thanks, Phil. Any other questions for the Cabinet member in relation to the agenda item? I've got Councillor Borrett, please.
Thank you, Leader. I'd like to say I know which district I would like to live in Norfolk, and I'm very glad that it is Breckland. If you look at the diagram on page 18 of the agenda today, Breckland is not just the cheapest council tax in Norfolk, it's the cheapest by a country mile. It's 33% cheaper than the next cheapest council tax, which is Broadland, and 287% cheaper than Norwich City Council's council tax. And we're doing all of that with providing a balanced budget, no reduction in services, no borrowing. And I think that contrasts hugely with Norwich City Council, who is spending a large chunk of the income they get on supporting their borrowing, and we can spend it on services. And you don't get less of a service in Breckland than you do in these other councils, because we've produced income through our property portfolio that helps support support services. So the spend in Breckland is similar to other services. So I just think in terms of when Councillor Burt was talking about value for money, Norfolk is so far ahead of all of the other councils in Norfolk in terms of what you get for the money that you pay in Breckland. I think we are an exemplar, and not only that, I think we are the lowest district council tax, not just in Norfolk, but in the whole country. And that is all down to the very careful stewardship of the members in Breckland over a great number of years. And we do benefit from the hard work that members have put in previous years. So I would just like to congratulate the team and the Cabinet for this budget. It's a draft budget, and so everybody in Breckland now will have the chance to have a look at it and respond with any comments, and it's just how it should be. It's an open and transparent process. But I just really wanted to say how very proud I am that Breckland is able to do this, given all the shocks of the previous 12 months with regarding the COVID and the Brexit and everything else that's been arriving unheralded, or heralded, but where it's been difficult to plan. And the fact that Breckland's been able to do all of this, I just think is a real testament, and congratulations to the Cabinet member and his team.
Thank you for that, Councillor Borrett. It is a team effort, and it isn't just the finance team, as I said in my presentation. Every single officer responsible for budget holding in this council has worked with the finance team to deliver the best possible value for money budget that we could ever anticipate, given the circumstances that we found ourselves in. And I think, as you say, for the Band D taxpayer to pay £1.90 per week to deliver all of the services that this council provides is incredibly good value for money. And we, again, remember that 75% of our taxpayers are paying significantly less than that per week. Chairman, if there are no other questions forthcoming, we have a recommendation on the first page of the report, which is on page 12, and that is that the medium-term financial strategy plan, etc., is reviewed in preparation for the final budget setting. If it's appropriate, I'd like to move that recommendation.
Lovely, thank you, Phil. And so just to confirm, its next journey is to overview and scrutiny on the 14th of January, where all members under the discretion of the chairman of the commission will have the opportunity to debate and help shape. And the comments for the consultation close on the 22nd of January. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Super. So yeah, no, I'm more than happy with your recommendations, Phil, and just want to echo your sentiments again, and other colleagues, that I know that some individuals across the district will be in financial hardship, and if they are, to make sure they contact our revenues and benefits part of the organisation to be able to offer them that support. And as you said, Phil, most 75% of residents will pay less than £99 a year and will receive an equivalent of £750 worth per household a year of services. And I think that shows real value for money, and your commitment, once again, as you said, that we are protecting frontline services and in fact investing in is a really positive position for us to be in. And I'm more than happy to take the recommendation on pages 12. Cabinet colleagues, are you content to move the recommendation? Hands. Super. Thank you very much indeed. So let's move on to the next item, please, which is the item 9, Breckland District Council owned land on Croxton Road. Councillor Hewitt to present, please.
Thank you, Chairman. It seems rather odd that, having actually looked at the overall medium-term financial strategy of the district, we're now looking at a very small asset or series of assets with a value of less than about £1,500. But our current constitution requires us that if we are to sell assets at below open market value, this requires a cabinet decision. My gut feel is that ultimately we need to change the constitution, but we are where we are. So agenda item number 9, the recommendation is to allow the transfer of land currently owned by us, or a small series of parcels of land which have been valued by the district value of about £1,500, in order effectively to transfer them to Norfolk County Council for the provision of a cycleway along the busy Croxton Road in Thetford. Norfolk County Council are leading the initiative. They've actually done a lot of preparatory work in relation to this initiative, and they're funding this initiative. And so from our perspective, what we're doing is just making available some small scraps of land on the Croxton Road in order for that initiative to bear fruits and to give the benefits that are outlined in the report. If anyone has any questions about this, I'm being a bit presumptuous that I suspect not. I'm more than happy to answer. Otherwise, Chair, I present the report and agenda item 9 with the recommendations for Cabinet to approve.
Lovely, thanks, Phil. I've got Councillor Robinson, please.
Thank you, Chairman, and thanks for the report, Paul. The provision of a dedicated cycleway on one of the major arteries of the Thetford Road network, and it's unfortunate enough it's within the ward I represent. Croxton Road is the main route for students to and from the Thetford Academy, and in time it will be an important gateway to the southern part of the sustainable urban extension. It's going to encourage physical activity and well-being, as well as providing a safer alternative to vehicular movement. And for those reasons, I thoroughly support the recommendations within the report.
Thanks, Mark.
Lovely. Thanks. I've got Councillor Jeremy, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Just for clarity, Councillor Hewitt mentioned the project's been funded by Norfolk County Council. In fact, it's being managed by them, but the funding is actually coming from the New Anglia LEP, linked with the growth of housing in Thetford. I wouldn't like any minutes or reporting to wrongly assume that Norfolk County Council was spending money incorrectly in Thetford. That said, Chairman, I do support the recommendation for the reasons Councillor Robinson has outlined. It's a good project and one I'm pleased the Council is supporting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jeremy, for that clarification. I got ahead of myself. I meant to say it was fully funded, but I've got Norfolk County Council in my head. Thank you.
Lovely, thanks. If there are no other questions at all then, happy to move the recommendation, Paul?
Move the recommendation, please, Chair.
Thank you. Colleagues, all those in favour? Yeah, good. Okay, thank you very much. That's passed. So we'll move on to the next item then, which is item 10. The Corporate Health and Safety Policy 2020, Councillor Bambridge to present, please.
Sorry, I will unmute. I was determined not to do that. Thanks, of course, has to go to Nick Kendrick, who compiled this report, and Sarah Shipley, who's guided us all through it. And I think they're both on board today, although I can't see them at the moment, to answer any questions you have. It's also, as some of you will know, been through scrutiny in recent time. The health and safety policy was last reviewed in 2017. It is scheduled for a review every 3 years at this stage, and so it has been reviewed now. The document you have before you has been presented to you today. The document you have before you today has been gone through the full consultation process. Any relevant comments have been taken into account and amendments made. This is a legally required document and is standard in its nature, containing all the relevant information that the last policy contained. The key changes being in an altered layout, which we feel makes it easier to read and to understand. This is the key policy for the Council's health and safety management and is supported by relevant procedures such as manual handling, display, screen equipment, accident and incident reporting, and so on. These are maintained on the Council's intranet and attached to the H&S policy by hyperlink. This allows for any of these procedures to be updated without the need to review and amend the health and safety policy every time. Once agreed, the look of the document will be refreshed to reflect all other Council policies. It is felt that the policy before you provides the Council with a legally compliant document for the next 3 years. Sorry, I staggered through that. The policy is before you, and we're happy to try and answer any comments or questions.
Lovely, thanks, Gordon. I've got Councillor Kyber, please.
Thank you, Leader. Just one question. The document or the appendix identifies the head of paid services having the ultimate responsibility. Is that the correct interpretation of our current management arrangements? Thank you.
Yes, it is. If I can answer that, Chairman, it is a legal requirement and applies to every council, and we do, of course, have a head of paid service.
Lovely, thanks, Gordon. Any other questions or comments for Councillor Bambridge, please?
Councillor Burt.
Lovely, thank you, Councillor Burt.
Just a very brief comment on page 88, policy 7. You have a link to a hyperlink to part of the internal intranet, which obviously members of the public and members cannot access that. So you might want to just remove those sorts of links from public documents.
I believe that that link will not be on the public document, but is placed there for members' convenience. I don't know where Nick is, but if you're there, Nick, can you just confirm that?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Hello, Nick.
Yeah. The link is there. I mean, it's an internal document for staff only, fundamentally, and for members. It can be shared on the internet, but obviously that link won't work. It's fundamentally, this is a document internal to the council and it's running effectively, if that helps.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Burt?
Well, that is the state of play that we're at. I'm just suggesting that when these things like this document are produced or provided on the public-facing part of our website, that we shouldn't necessarily include these links, because somebody tries to click on that link and you get a document not found, or it diverts to an alternative website, which could be confusing.
I don't think that will happen, will it, Nick?
No, I can sort that out, Councillor Burt. That's not a problem, and Councillor Banbridge, yeah, no problem at all.
Lovely, thank you. Just a question, Nick and Gordon. It's frantic semantics, I assume. It's referred to as a subject within the report as the Corporate Health and Safety Policy 2020. Why is it not 2021?
I'd have to defer to superior knowledge on that. The policy was completely constructed during 2020 and it was approved, but whether it needs to be changed to 2021, I'm not sure, Nick. Can you help, or can Sarah help if she's there?
Yeah, it can. Yeah, it can certainly be changed to 21. Now we're obviously moved into 21. It can certainly, and if it gets passed here today, its start date will be the 4th of January 2021. And obviously, I've got to make it look slightly prettier than it does now. I'm just waiting that approval.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Thank you, Nick, and thank you, Gordon. So, no other questions or comments in relation to agenda item 10. My internet's still being slow, so I may miss a hand, but I can't see any. So, Gordon, are you happy to move the recommendation?
I am happy to move the recommendation, Chairman, that you approve the health and safety policy amended to 2021 for adoption.
Lovely, thank you. Cabinet colleagues, all those in favour? Super, that's carried. Lovely, thank you very much. So let's move on to the next item as I scroll through. Item 11 then, which is the update on Breckland sustainability strategy. This is a standing item, and Councillor Sherwood to present, please.
Thank you very much, Leader. 2021 is here, and for Breckland, it will be the year we adopt our sustainability policy and we go forward to take further climate action. I hope by the end of this year that all of my council colleagues will have taken the opportunity to identify their own carbon footprint and things they can do to help reduce that. I'll also be working with and encouraging our local residents to do the same, so we can all understand the effect we have on our climate and our environment. But Breckland will be taking direct action, and we will be doing a number of things during this year and going forward, including setting a date for when we will as a council become carbon neutral. This is all exciting stuff, and I'm really pleased that we're having this going forward over the coming months. Going to the report, which you will see contained in the papers today, I'm sure all of you have had the opportunity to read this, and I know how much interest it is to many of you. So first of all, I've got to point out that there's a typographical error, which I'm sure you've all seen, on item 15H, where it simply says ensure. And it should in fact read, ensure that other greenhouse gases are included in our plans. So I'm sure you've all spotted that, and I didn't want one of you to have to raise it with me. So I thought I would highlight that first. You will see in the report under items 1.3, where we cover off the various points raised and the feedback from the members forum. And we had lots of information there. And also under 1.5, where I've just referred to the typing error, we've got the feedback from the overview and scrutiny Commission and the comments made there. So this policy has been progressing and is progressing, and I look forward to the stages we'll have in the coming year, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you, Leader.
Lovely, thanks, Ian. Questions from colleagues, please. Councillor Webb.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Sherwood, for your report. It's very, very good and very, very encouraging. Two questions, please, if you don't mind. The first one is, can you tell me when the new Sustainability Officer is starting with us? And the second one is, can you tell me where we are with the public engagement survey, it would be good to have some information about how it's going. I know it's not completed yet, but I'd be really interested in how it's actually progressing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Webb. You're a star, because in my notes here, written down, I'd got those 2 points that I wanted to mention. Luckily, you must have been reading my notes from a distance and been able to identify the points that I hadn't covered off. So thank you for that. I'll try and remember them in order, but I'll probably get them wrong. The exciting news is that our Sustainability Officer, Climate Change Officer, starts today. So today, the 4th of January 2021, another exciting step in our sustainability policy is our officer starts today. You'll recall that the interviews were prior to Christmas, and I was pleased to see 3 presentations made by the shortlisted candidates. They were all excellent, and our officer will start today. I'm sure he'll be in touch with all members once he's got his equipment and found his feet. He'll be in touch with all members, and you can start to put forward your thoughts and questions to him from that point. So that's great news. The second point is, yes, the survey for residents went live just prior to Christmas. And I was very pleased to hear this morning that so far we've had over 150 responses, which is excellent. That survey is still live and can be accessed. So, you know, sorry, I just had a WhatsApp there, which made me smile. Can't go into detail. Sorry, I lost it there. We had 155 replies so far to the sustainability survey, which is excellent. But something Greg Pearson and the new officer will have to go through is also some 500 emails we've had from residents and organisations on this subject. Greg and I have been trying to keep up with those and go through those during the year since our announcement. And there's so much interest and so much feedback. So thank you for those 2 questions, Alison, because people have still got time, residents have still got time to take part with that consultation survey. That is still ongoing, 155 so far, and I hope there'll be a lot more to come. So thank you, Councillor Webb.
Lovely, thanks, Alison. Councillor Burt.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, you mentioned, Ian, that we've got the report in now. That says that in 1.28. Please, can we see it? I know it's a draft report, but you know, be very keen to actually start reviewing that as soon as possible. Could you put it up on the members area, or how are we going to get that information out? Also on page 90, I do notice the wording says that this is going to inform the most appropriate date for carbon neutrality, which I must say doesn't sound particularly urgent, considering that this is a climate emergency. I wonder whether we can just perhaps be a bit more proactive and say, no, what we're going to achieve, you know, we're actually going to push ourselves and do something which is special and extra. On page 91, yes, I had spotted your the missing text, but also point out on 1.5b, which you're talking about carbon offsetting again. You said that this is the report, this is the information that come back from overview and scrutiny, and that's not really reflected in the minutes of overview and scrutiny. I think this carbon offsetting thing is more that it just keeps being inserted back in when actually I think there's a desire to say we really, really should not be doing this. We can't buy ourselves out of an obligation. Carbon offsetting is a bad thing, and we need to not be accused of greenwashing or buying out of our obligations. So I think we perhaps need to be very careful about including that in future documentation.
Thank you, Councillor Burt. In answer to your first point, the report came back from our consultants. It's a fairly lengthy document. I've spent most of the Christmas break thoroughly reading that, and that will be shared with you very soon. I'm going to look at Greg, who's online. I think him and I wanted to discuss some further details this week, but I'm now going to put Greg on the spot and said, would it be likely, Greg, Mr. Pearson, that we could share that next week? So can I just have Greg on to answer that, and then I'll cover off your second point.
Apologies, I struggled to find my mute button there. Yes, that should be fine. We can get that circulated out next week, obviously pending our discussions later in the week.
Thank you very much, Greg. So I hope that answers your first point, Councillor Burt. You can hold me to account, but my plan would be to share that with all members next week. Your second point regarding carbon offsetting. I think you and I agree that carbon offsetting is not necessarily the best way to go forward. However, when members get the report from our company looking at how soon we can declare carbon neutrality, there will be some important questions, and you're absolutely right about wanting to be ambitious and wanting to set an achievable target for when we can do that. So there will be some considerations and there will be some options about how we want to do that. So I understand the Commission's comments and I understand members' comments, but at the moment, I still think it has to be in there as an option, not a preferred option, but it has to be in there. Members will ultimately make the choice. They will make the choice of the date and target date we set for carbon neutrality, and they will also make the choice and decisions of how we choose to get there. Thank you very much, Councillor Burt.
Lovely. Thanks, Ian. Are there any other questions or comments in relation to Ian's report? Lovely. Thank you. David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ian, for your report. Again, great to see that there's progress with the appointment of the officer. We already previously agreed a figure, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, of £90,000 as a budget figure for the salary and on costs of that particular individual within the climate change scenario. And I guess this is also a question I could have asked to Councillor Cohen with regards to the budget. Is it intended that a specific budget will be set for the Council of the climate change agenda, or will we be faced with a budget which is based on a per request, so to speak, for specific items as we move forward? My own personal view is that it would be good to have some concept, some idea of the overall cost on an annual basis as we move forward with this very exciting and very important project. And the other question I had was already asked by Councillor Webb with regards to the employment of that particular officer, which is great news, obviously. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wickerson. You'll be pleased to hear, absolutely, we will have a defined budget. We will have an identifiable budget for us to be able to use to affect our sustainability policy going forward. So that's good news. I've been having very serious conversations with Councillor Cowan and other Cabinet colleagues about that budget. You will have heard from Councillor Cowan's presentation of the challenges of the budget, but you will also have seen from Alison's presentation that allocation is going to be there for our climate strategy. We originally had a very small budget of 25,000 to get to the point where we are now, to help us do the research and the various background information that we needed. We've got the funding for the officer, that's been agreed, and we will be agreeing further funding to go forward with our climate policy, our strategy there. So yes, I can confirm there will be an identifiable fund. Thank you, Councillor Wickerson.
Lovely, thanks, Ian. I've got Councillor Attewell, please, and then Councillor Wickerson again.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks for the report. That's very good to see us all heading in the right direction. Bearing in mind we've got the severe coronavirus pandemic at the moment, do you think there's lots of businesses and households that are struggling at the moment? Do you think there's going to be a problem getting those businesses and households to engage in practical terms in changing their habits as we come out of this? Or do you foresee that there will be a prolonged period where they're trying to rebuild their own personal finances and the businesses before they're really interested in engaging with us? And I just wonder if you've thought about that and how you think we can mitigate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Attewell. I don't know whether you had any time yesterday evening, but one programme, I think you did. I think I saw a tweet, in fact, from you to say you were watching Perfect Planet with David Attenborough rather. My view is, obviously, I've read more documentation on climate change and climate action and where the planet is today over the last 12 months than I have done probably in the rest of my life. It's always been a subject very passionate and key to me personally. But what I've found is that the public and businesses identified last year through the pandemic the importance of the environment, the importance of nature and wildlife. And I think there's a genuine desire to make that difference, to make that change. Sorry about my clock. Everybody, I'll let that strike. I'll get wrong off the leader because I've got to take it out of the room before the meeting. He always tells me I should do that. And you can probably also spot that it's the wrong time, but I'll just let that finish. Well, I'll try and talk over it, Councillor Attewell. So I think the engagement is there with the members of the public, and each individual and each business will obviously have to consider their own financial position. But I hope, we'll be able to help them identify. And just over Christmas myself, I've been looking at changing to different types of heating for my own home. And there are many grants available and many schemes that members of the public and businesses can buy into. And I think there is a desire, and I think many people will want to see 2021 very much as a fresh start. And that's why I'm hoping that with the assistance we'll be able to give to members of the public to help them identify their own carbon footprint, to help them understand about what they can do, to have a one-stop website page so that they can look and see what they can do to make differences, linking to other organisations. I think, and I hope, people will be able to find that they can make changes, and ultimately, in many cases, will save money in the long run. So it can help them financially as well as helping the environment. But it will be a challenge, and it will be up to individual businesses and individuals themselves to identify how they feel they can make those changes. But some changes don't necessarily involve additional cost. So yes, I think you're right, there will be a challenge, but I think we can lead and help people to get to where they need to be.
Lovely, thanks Ian. Councillor Wickerson, please.
Thank you, Chairman. My question has already been answered. Thank you.
Great stuff, thank you. If there are no further questions in relation to this report, Ian, for some reason, I've just got this image of Blackadder goes forth and the slug balancer with Baldrick. I don't know why. It's just I can't get it out of my head. But anyway, so the report under item 11 is just for noting. So if there are no further questions, that's duly noted. And I look forward to the consultant's report being shared with members at some point next week. So we'll move on to item 12, which is the Anglia Revenues and Benefits Partnership. Councillor Cowan, is there anything you wish to present from these minutes, please?
Not particularly, thank you, Chairman. The minutes are for noting, but I think one item that members will take a lot of heart from is actually almost a repeat of what we've said before, and that is that given particularly the circumstances that ratepayers across the ARP spectrum have been facing, ARP have been able to deliver the services in a remarkably efficient manner. And they, as well as the rest of us at Breckland, are making efficiency savings as a consequence of investment in artificial intelligence to enable the service they provide to be much more intuitive, to help to keep our costs down. It is a program of work which is continuing, but I just take my hat off to them, all of the team, as with our finance team, in these current times, that they've been able to work as well, efficiently, and in support of our communities as they have. Thank you, Chairman.
Lovely, thanks, Phil. So those minutes are duly noted from the meeting of the 8th of December. Item 13 then, the date of the next meeting will be the 1st of February 2021 at 9:30 via Zoom and shared on our social media and YouTube. So thanks to all those members and officers and members of the public who have joined us today. Really do appreciate it and hope you have a safe and a prosperous 2021. I'll move on to item 14 then, which is the exclusion of the press and public, and ask Cabinet colleagues to consider passing the following resolution: that under section 100A4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the press and public be excluded from the meeting for the following item of business on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure or exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of Schedule 12A of the Act. Cabinet colleagues, are you content to pass that resolution, please? Is that everyone in agreement, Teresa and Julie?
It's all agreed.